So the next speaker, we have a distinguished professor in the field of Islamophobia. I can say one of the pioneer speakers in the field of Islamophobia from Pakistan, Professor Dr. Zafar Iqbal from International Islamic University, Islamabad, Pakistan. Over to you, Prof. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you are audible. Thank you very much. And I'm grateful to University of Management and Technology and Dr. Mohsen for inviting me on this forum and talk a little about the media framing of conflict that is right now, in fact, grabbing the attention of the entire world media. And very honestly, I would like to say that all three my colleagues, Dr. Wissam Ahmed, Dr. Soreen, Dr. Hayoma, they have been wonderful, and they have probably given, you see, a very broad perspective of the conflict and how do media in fact frame them. So this has been really very interesting and learning sessions for me, and of course that would be for all the students, those who are present in this room today. And that in fact is putting me into some kind of troublesome situation at the same time. Reason being that I feel that I have left with a little to in fact talk on in today's discussion, but still I think one very important aspect that somehow Hayoma has touched in his discussion, I would like to in fact elaborate it further. But of course, first setting a preamble for my today's talk, that is very important. And I will take you to a classroom situation. A couple of years back, I think this was 2018, when I was in the University of Southern California, Los Angeles. And I was teaching a summer course there. And the course title was Religion and Media. At that time, when I was showing this or exposing this whole phenomenon to the students over there, and you see there was a bulk of students over there, and most of them were undergraduate, those who got registered for summer course on Islam and media, on religion and media. So when I showed them the kind of trajectory in the history that from 1947 to today, I mean, this was 2018 when I was in fact showing them this picture. And the picture has been shown by Wasim Ahmed as well in his presentation, where the kind of, expansionism, or you can say the expansion in the lands of Israel that can very easily be depicted that in last 72 or 73 years time, how did Israel in fact expand? So that picture, in fact, once I was showing that picture to the students over there, that was in fact very astonishing for me. That students in fact shouting on things like that, that no, that is not a truth. This is in fact truth of the Islamic world, truth of the Muslim world, that in fact always talk about things like that, that the Palestinian land belongs to Palestinian only, and that hasn't to do anything with Israel and the Jewish people. And this kind of, concocted kind of things, and the stories are, fabs and stories are very common in the Muslim world. We do not believe, and we do not in fact accept this as a truth. And that in fact was in fact, exposing me to an absolutely different thing, that what in fact, what kind of, brain has been fit in the skulls of the youth in the United States, or you can say in the West, because the class that was with me, that was having, representation from different parts of the world. And from there I can, find it out that how in fact they are being fed by their media, and how they have been believed to certain things which are totally non-existent and probably totally false. But they have a strong conviction on that whatever we know about Israel and the whole Palestinian conflict, that is the ultimate and the absolute truth. Here, I think we can just find it out that how powerful the media are, and the way they try to in fact frame things that in fact become the ultimate truth for the people. Media in fact create a kind of, reality in the minds of the people. And I think I would not like to focus more on that, how media are powerful and how do they do things like that. Here, in fact, I just wanted to pose it to you, to the students, those who are available in this room. There's the Western media portrayal of this whole or entire conflict is absolutely different than we normally are getting exposed to. If I say that when we talk about the Palestinian and the Israel conflict, or you can say the dispute that is there, once we talk about things like that, I feel most of the time that we are in fact talking with each other. Reason being the thing that are supposed to be told to the people up there, I mean, those who are living in the Western world or working in the Western media organizations, that is probably not our voice is not reaching them. They are not in fact listening to us. Reason being that we are having a kind of, you see, very limited scope of the discourses and the discussions that we make in our media and in our these smaller groups discussions. So this is in fact what a traumatic situation in fact that we are exposed to. And I would like to in fact shed some light on this as well. But I would like to ask certain questions if, for instance, I feel that the people, those who are from the West there and listening to me, I would like to ask this question: that how many of us know that in the last about 15 years, there were only 30 soldiers from Israel, those who got killed, but more than 4,000 civilian Palestinians died in the deadly and brutal attacks. And how many of the building that has been razed to grounds and the crops destroyed, children suffered due to the lack of no life-saving drugs there. Schools and colleges were closed for long periods, and whole of Palestine is in fact under siege. So do the Western media putting things like that in their light and telling these things are these facts to the people up there? I really think that the whole gory picture that is there, this has never been shown to the Western world and by the Western media. That's why they do not know the reality of the conflict and the reality of the whole thing that in fact occurs there. I say, and probably most of the people, those who are in this room, they might say that Gaza today is an open air prison. The world, you can say, the largest open air prison, where more than 2 million people, women and children, they're in fact besieged there. And they have, you see, they are suffering from a lot of psychological and physical, and you see, a lot of, you see, psychological impacts of these long war are there on children. I really hardly see anything like that, which in fact is talking about things like that what kind of psychological impacts of these long wars are there on the Palestinian children. Have you come across something like that? I mean, a report or some kind of documentary on the Western media? We see even a smaller bird that's a species is going to be an extinct one, and you will see a lot many cameras and the international channels that are focusing on them. But what about that? There are, you see, for the last 6 and 7 generations that have taken birth in this kind of conflict in the area of Palestine. So nobody is in fact talking about them. Nobody is in fact talking about the lessons and the pains that the people and the children and whosoever is there, they are in fact suffering from. Western media do not in fact try to measure the scale of human rights violations in Palestine, so that the whole world should be shaken up and to be, you see, taken out of that deep slumber they are in. I really don't think anything like that is now going on there. Misery, desperation, unending grief, and casualties year after year since 60s, in fact, is hidden from the Western media, unfortunately. And giving you an example, when just one American soldier, when he got killed in Helmand province of Afghanistan, I still remember that it was over 1 week period time that the whole American media was in fact mourning on that. But nobody is talking about it, that hundreds and thousands of people, those who are living in Gaza, living in the Palestinian world, they're under siege and they are being killed and they are being deprived of the rights that they are supposed to begin as a human in this world. So this is very unfortunate and a very gory picture that I'm trying to post to you, because I in fact want to reach to the conclusion of my talk today would in fact help me help me to give you some kind of, you see, explanation of this whole situation. I know that all my friends are talking about it, that there are, of course, the worthy victims and unworthy victims, and media, in fact, make those kind of coverages. Media, in fact, are trying to pose that whatever is going on between Palestine and Israel, this is a kind of, you see, property dispute. This is a kind of, you see, land dispute. They are using word the property dispute. AFP, that is reporting on May 10th this year, they are saying that this is a kind of, you see, property dispute between the two warring factions there. And in fact, they are also posing the Palestinians as one of the warring factions. And they are also, in fact, talking about, I mean, New York Times is talking about eviction of Jerusalem. So they are, in fact, trying to this kind of color. And very rightly, my friend Wasim Ahmed has, in fact, mentioned that the Western media is, in fact, talking about clash and conflict between Palestinian protesters and the Israeli soldiers. So you see, he has given a very good explanation showing it that conflict is between the two warring factions. One is, in fact, with the slingshots and having stone in their hands, and the other is, in fact, equipped with, you see, the world most modern gadgetry, and they are trying to, in fact, fight with the, you see, the people, those who are empty-handed and don't have any kind of weapon in them. So what kind of conflict is that? This is essentially an aggression. But you see, we do not see that this is being declared as an aggression. Rather, when the Palestinians try to do something to protect themselves, and in that case, somebody is injured, I mean, some Israeli army personnel is injured, that is considered as an attack. That is considered as an attack. And whatever they do, I mean, the Israeli soldiers do against the Palestinians, that is usually considered as a retaliation. Retaliation to what? You see, that kind of, you see, very problematic kind of thing are pictures that has being given to the Western world, or to the whole world rather. Somehow we are prone to, you see, some kind of, you see, information we are receiving from our own media. That's why we are having some kind of, you can say, a balance between what the Western world or Western media is saying about this conflict and what the actual things are. When Israelis, in fact, are trying to capture the Palestinians, they call it as an arrest. And if a soldier is being caught by a group of people, by Palestinians, that is considered as a kidnapping. So this is unfortunate. This is very unfortunate thing. And similarly, you can see the BBC, what they are saying. They are using the word atrocities, the brutal attacks, the lynching, and the terrorist, and if the extremists are there and part of the Israeli soldiers and the Israeli society, they are considered as an extremist and the vigilantes. But once something goes on part of the Palestinian, you see, how is that declared? That is considered to be, you see, terrorism. And those who are committing this kind of, you see, act are considered terrorists. So this is, in fact, very unfortunate situation. If you allow me, I can just give you a very good example, which is right now on internet, and you can fetch it from the YouTube as well. Day before yesterday, there was a talk on CNN between an anchor of the CNN program at that time, and the foreign minister of Pakistan, Shah Mahmood Qureshi. This is just a 10 and 11 minutes talk, and this is something that can really help you understand the whole scene that is going on in the Western media. When he was saying that this is a kind of brutality on part of Israel against the Palestinian, the anchor immediately objected him that you are going anti-Semitic. And she, in fact, said 3 times this word, that you are going anti-Semitic by declaring Israel as a terrorist state. And the last minute talk that she had given, this is something very interesting and eye-opening for all of us, when she is saying that you are, in fact, hurting our heart by calling Israel as a terrorist state. So you are going anti-Semitic, and I will request you that I not repeat it and not going anti-Semitic in future. You see, the last minute that she uttered, this is something that exposed you that what media are doing, and what media are, in fact, destined to when they are to discuss about Palestinian conflict and the Israeli conflict over there. So that can really help you understand the whole big scene that is there with just this 10 minutes time. That can help you understand the whole scene there. One, the conclusion that I can draw out of this scenario, I mean, I would not like to go long on, because whatever I was supposed to talk about, all my worthy colleagues have already discussed about those things. But now I am going to lead you to something very interesting. I think you all are media students. You all have heard this very important proverb that says, the media are Americans. This is, you see, Jeremy Tunstall, who was once saying this, that the media are Americans. This is a quote unquote very important, and it is the name of his book by Jeremy Tunstall. I think that now this is to be rephrased. No, media are not American. Media are Jewish. This is what my friend Hayoma has also just explained, that why that the media are in the clutches of the Jewish lobby everywhere in the world, and especially and particularly in the Western world. They cannot say anything against Israel, and they cannot do anything favorable to the Palestine and the Palestinian cause. Reason being, on the other side is who? It's in fact the Jewish lobby, the strongest one and the invisible one, of course. You will not see that you will not see that things are being said about Israel in that way, about which the things are being discussed about Muslims all around the world. There are only 14 million Muslims in the entire world. But if you just see that they are in fact controlling the entire media scene of the Western world, and they are controlling almost every media conglomerate. For instance, if you just ask me to give you an example of it, I can just give you an example. Who is in fact, you see, Walt Disney. Walt Disney, in fact, controlling almost, you see, huge media organizations in the world. And Robert Iger and whosoever is there on the top of the organizations that are in fact constituting Walt Disney conglomerations, they are in fact not only the Jews, rather they are the Zionists. I hope you understand the difference between the Jews and the Zionists. They are in fact extremist Zionists, those who are in fact working in these, they are at the helm of affairs of these organizations. Take example of News Corporation. Yes, we know all about Rupert Murdoch, but have you ever thought about it that Rupert Murdoch is, of course, his father was Christian. He is from Australia, but who was his mother? And who are the CEOs of all the organizations that he is holding, or you can say forming the overall News Corporation? Most of them are, I mean, those who are the CEO, because Rupert Murdoch himself has never said that I'm whether a Zionist or whether a Jewish or a Christian. He, in fact, always denied this kind of, you see, association with anything. But look at it, that who he appoints as CEO of most of his organizations, they are in fact clearly Zionist and Jewish. You can find it out on internet, and you can have all the facts very visible to you. What about Viacom? I mean, who doesn't know the Summer Redstone as a Jewish Zionist, and of course controlling all the affairs and the most important affairs of Viacom? What about Time and Warner? So I think Mayor is a very important person over there. He is in fact controlling the whole world's media. Time and Warner, the most influential one. I hope you will be recalling, especially I would request this thing to Hayoma sitting in the United States. I hope you would be recalling that when Wall Street Journal was going very polemical, or you can say somehow anti-Semitic on logical grounds against Israel, what happened? In 2007, in 2005, the Wall Street Journal, the most influential newspaper of the United States, who in fact was bought by that newspaper? That was in fact bought by the Jewish lobby, worth 7 million US dollars. So, sorry, 7 billion US dollar. So this is something that you can very easily understand, that wherever they feel that the media are going against them, they try to control them and they try to buy them. And this way, they in fact try to enlarge their empire. So in fact, media are Jewish. So expecting that the media would be giving, I mean, the Western media would be giving you an absolutely honest picture, that would be somehow injustice to ourselves. We are in fact trying to put ourselves into some kind of, you see, smoke, where we are unable to see things while things are very clear to us. And of course, there are reasons behind, I mean, why they are controlling it, because they have the money in their hands, and they are the, of course, most powerful people as well. They are in fact even not only controlling the US media and the media in the West, they are also even in fact controlling the Wall Street. I would request, watch Inside Job, or you watch the Obama's Deception. That can in fact give you an idea that what kind of thing is going on in the US stock market and US Wall Street and US Federal Reserves. Who control them? The one who controls the media controls the minds and controls the system. And the one who controls the Wall Street controls the economy of the world. So you see, minds control and the economy control, these are all in your hands now. So talking about it that we will be reflected or we will be given some kind of, you see, justified space in the Western media, that too by explaining our problems to the world, I think this would be a sheer injustice to ourselves, and we are probably living in a utopian world when we talk about things like that. Muslims have to, in fact, to be somehow wary about things like that. And they have to improve themselves to be able to, in fact, reach to this position where they should be able to have some kind of contribution in the Western media. And this is something that we have to admit at the same time, that there have been, you see, 900 Nobel Prize that have so far been awarded. And there are only 0.23% of the world population is Jew. And 25% of the world population is Muslims. And these 0.23% of the Jews, they in fact bagged more than 200 Nobel Prizes. I think we have to in fact wake up from this kind of thing. That why they have been able to control the world and control the world affairs, the economy and the media and all these things, because they have struggled a lot. Every important school of thought, you will see a huge number of Jews are there behind that school of thought. Whether this is Birmingham School of Thought, Chicago School of Thought, or Frankfurt School of Thought, Frankfurt School of Thought. So we Muslims have to, in fact, have some kind of realization to these, that if the media are going somehow injustice to us, there is some kind of injustices that we are trying to, in fact, incurring to ourselves. So the takeaway from my today's discussion is that media are Jewish. And why they are Jewish, I have explained, or I have somehow given you the reasons behind. So these reasons should be, in fact, be well understood by the entire Muslim world. To be able to, in fact, counter to that small fraction of people, those who are forming only 0.23% of the world population. When we say that there is a conflict in Palestine, when we say that Palestinians are being deprived of their lands and they are put into some kind of under siege there, and there is nobody who is there to talk about those things in the Western media or in the Western platform, we have to understand this thing, that the thing that matters in the world is not the number now. That we need to understand it is not the number, but the control and the power that you in fact hold. You may be millions and millions, but still the worthless. But you can be one or two, but still very powerful. Then you'll be, of course, controlling things in the world. So I'm sorry by becoming a little emotional and giving you some picture that why this world is not taking up the issue that the Palestinians are in fact confronted with. Problem is that we do not have say in the world affairs. We do not have say in the world media. Media would, of course, be in the control, in the tight control of these Jewish lobbies. And if Muslims have to, in fact, create some kind of, space for their voice to be heard, they, of course, have to take control of these media, take shares of those media. Most of the time, when I'm in the United States, and Diane Winston, she was my supervisor over there, and when she was seeing me talking these kind of things over there, she said that even the Los Angeles Times is very anti to Muslims. I think you advise your Muslim brothers, they should buy it, so that you should have some say in these kind of media organizations. So we have to, in fact, wake up. Media would never be giving your picture. Media would never be talking about you, because we do not own them. Not, as you see, single share of these international conglomerations belong to the Muslim world. So to be able to, in fact, become part of them and to be able to herd in their discourses and debates, we have to be very careful about that. And we have to listen to these kind of things. The last line that I would say, John Swinton once said, he once was asked someone that you are holding, the reins of a very important and very powerful media organization in the world. And that is New York Times. He was chief of New York Times. And he was said that you are holding the very important media organizations. You would be definitely a very powerful person. And what did they say at that time? You remember? He was saying, no, I feel myself an intellectual prostitute. I'm holding this position, but someone is there to control my mind. So who is controlling the minds of the media? The people, those who work in the media organization. Who is controlling them? We have to, in fact, identify those invisible forces, very powerful forces, and we have to, in fact, raise our level to reach to that level, so that we should be able to, of course, find some space for us. And thank you very much in the end to UMG for giving me this space to talk about these things in a very short manner. I believe that this kind of things would continue in future as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohsen.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Zafar Iqbal from International Islamic University, Islamabad. It is always nice to listen your energetic, fruitful talks full of rich information. And you left, so many things to us, go and study. Thank you so much, Prof.